welcome to Business Review, a daily program that delves into the latest and most significant economic stories. From stock markets to currency news, Business Review covers the most up-to-date developments in the global finance.
Taxi drivers gathered across Italy on November the 6th for a nationwide strike against the latest government restrictions brought in to tackle the rise in coronavirus infections. About 200 drivers gathered outside Rome Finance Ministry in the morning, calling for more financial support as they shouted they no longer have enough money to buy petrol. Taxi drivers and head of the USB trade union, Riccardo Caccione, said that protesters have continued to carry out their services for 24 hours a day, even during the pandemic, using their own money, noting they don't have enough money to put petrol in their cars and they've reached a point where they just can't go anymore. Italy registered 34,505 new cases on November the 5th, its highest ever daily tally. New restrictions to tackle the second wave of the virus and curb a steady rise in deaths and hospital admissions came into force. The country has been split into three tiers: red, which is high risk, where the Lombardy region, including the financial capital of Milan, has been placed; orange, medium risk, and yellow, low risk zones. Restrictions of movement are tougher for the red areas, but a nationwide closure of bars and restaurants at 6 p.m. is underway and a curfew at 10 p.m.
Chinese home appliance manufacturers have seen a surge in overseas demand for small household devices during the COVID-19 pandemic, which has prompted homebound consumers to shift their budget towards these products. One home appliance company in East China's Fushan City is rushing to meet demand from both domestic and overseas markets. Its vice president said there are so many products to process that they need extra space. According to data from the consultancy group iMedia, overseas demand for small home appliances produced in China increased significantly during the pandemic. Its figures show that in the first half of 2020, China's exports of electric frying pans, toasters, and juicers grew by 62.9%, 34.7%, and 12.1% respectively, becoming leaders for the country's exports of small home appliances. Analysts say that with no end to the pandemic in sight, overseas orders will likely continue to pour in for Chinese appliance manufacturers. According to Lin Hanyu, chief analyst for the home appliance industry with Haitei Securities, since China's production capacity has recovered from the pandemic, the export growth is obvious, including for the cross-border e-commerce and manufacturing industries. He added that the growth will be reflected to some extent in the third quarter financial reports.
The 90th China International Exposition of Housing Industry and Products and Equipment of Building Industrialization was held in Beijing, and a range of latest technologies and innovations were on show. Prefabricated building is the highlight of this year's Housing Expo. It's a trendy, environmentally friendly construction method which assembles buildings or their components at a location other than the building site. Passive low-energy buildings also attract visitors. Zhao Li, an exhibitor of the Housing Expo, has brought a house model to the event which can maintain constant temperature and humidity without any heating or cooling systems. This year's exhibition attracted 300 companies with the exhibition area of about 5 hectares at the new hall of the China International Exhibition.
Asian shares scaled a near 3-year peak on November 5th, and bonds extended their blistering rally as investors wagged the prospect of US policy gridlock would greatly favor some industries while also restraining government borrowing. The risk of a prolonged contested election did remain. though the count was progressing in an orderly fashion with Democratic challenger Joe Biden narrowly ahead in key states. In Japan, the benchmark Nikkei 225 closed up 1.73% at 24,105.28 points, its highest since October 3rd of 2018. In South Korea, the benchmark Kospi closed up 56.47 points or 2.40% to 2,413.79, logging the fastest daily chop since June 16th. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was up 3.25%, closed at 25,695.92 points, while the Shanghai Composite Index closed up 42.69 points by 1.3% at 3,320.13.
The China Federation of Logistics and Purchasing announced that the Global Manufacturing Purchase Managers Index in October stood at 54.5%, up 1.6%. The PMI for global manufacturing sector has been running above 50% for 4 consecutive months from July. A reading above 50% indicates expansion. Director of Department of Macroeconomic Research for Development Research Center of the State Council said global manufacturing industry has been continuously in expansion range since July, mainly due to a slowdown due to the impact of the pandemic. In addition, unconventional large-scale support policies have also played a role in recovery. Regionally, the Asian manufacturing PMI rose for a 6th consecutive month to reach 51.4%, with steady growing trends in India, South Korea, Singapore, and China. The manufacturing PMI for Europe stood above 51% for a 4th consecutive month, with the index for Germany reaching 58% to showing a steady recovery there. The American manufacturing PMI rose 3.3 percentage points to 58.7% in October, the 4th consecutive month seeing the index exceed 53%.
A new study published in the international academic journal Science Advances revealed that the United States has generated the largest amount of plastic waste among all countries globally. The research article titled "The United States Contribution of Plastic Waste to Land and Ocean," published in Science Advances on October 30th, said that in 2016, the US generated the largest amount of plastic waste, most than all countries worldwide. By both the World Bank estimate and the study's refined estimate, in 2016, the US population produced the largest mass of plastic waste of any country in the world and also had the largest annual per capita plastic waste generation of the top plastic waste generating countries, of more than 100 kilograms. The study also said that the amount of plastic waste generated in the US estimated to enter the coastal environment in 2016 was up to 5 times larger than the estimated for 2010. According to the statistics from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, 75.4% of the plastic waste was treated by disposal in landfills, 15.3% by incineration, and 9.3% by recycling. By this estimation, 100% of waste generated in the U.S. was properly managed. However, the study showed that this is not the case. The study shows that 5% of plastic wastes made by the US are mismanaged by littering, illegal dumping, or improperly disposed after shipped to other countries. In 2016, only 9% of plastic waste in the US were recycled. The study shows that the US is the second largest exporter of plastic scrap globally. According to the statistics from 2016, more than half of the plastic wastes collected in the US for recycling were shipped abroad, and about 90% of the destination countries have difficulties in effectively managing plastic waste. For a long time, the US has regarded some developing countries with insufficient waste disposal capacity as the final disposal site for plastic waste, according to an investigation report released by the NGO Basel Action Network. US companies are still illegally exporting hazardous e-wastes to developing countries in 2020. As the world's largest exporter of solid waste and a major consumer of plastic in per capita terms, the US has not ratified the Basel Convention on the control of transboundary movement of hazardous wastes and their disposal, impeding the global management and control of plastic waste and frustrating the adoption of relevant amendments aiming to strengthen the regulations.
This has been Business Review, your daily source for the most critical financial stories. Tune in next time for the latest financial news impacting the world economy.